Thursday. Broncos back at practice after a gut-wrenching loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Rachel Vigil, Cody Roark, how are you, my friend? Are you ready for a massive Chargers game on Sunday?
The stakes are huge here. This is a very, very big game for the Broncos. And I can't exercise this statement enough to fans is that, like, yes, it's early on in the season, but this is kind of like a playoff game. This is I don't want to say it's a must win. But I also don't want to say, but this is a game that you can't lose. Like the stakes are very high because the Chargers, they have a very good division record right now, 2-0. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Raiders. The Broncos got to beat them to avoid them having a 3-0 start in a divisional tiebreaker scenario here. So play spoils. And look, if the Broncos win on Sunday, they would essentially jump to first place in the AFC West. Now, some people are like, well, Cody, they have the Chargers would have a 2-1 AFC divisional record. Yep. But how I know the NFL views it, divisional games are kind of like two games, a win and a loss, plus that head-to-head tiebreaker. That's where it would prop Denver up, even though the Denver would be 1-0 in divisional play at that point if they do win, even though that they would be 2-1 in conference. It's that head-to-head that really matters. So big game, Rachel. Big game.
Listen, I know you're not calling it a must-win, but Sean Payton is calling it a must-win. That's what Jonah Ellis told us in the locker room yesterday. Sean said a must-win game. So you know it's big, right? Like, you don't hear those words come out of players' mouths very often where it's like a must-win, right? They're always like, oh, the season is really long, all of that jazz. No, this is a massive game, and unfortunately, in my eyes at least, I don't think the Broncos match up too well against this Chargers team.
It doesn't look like that. Like when you watch week 2, Denver's defense, and you look at how well the Chargers offense has kind of been clicking a little bit. Granted, like I said, they played the Chiefs, they played the Raiders. They had a few explosive plays in this game. On Monday Night Football, Quentin Johnston hauled in a deep pass from Justin Herbert. They just have a lot of different playmakers around Herbert this year that they didn't have last year. Look, Ladd McConkey was big last year. He hurt the Broncos in that game, specifically on Thursday Night Football. And even in that earlier matchup they had I believe it was week 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was week 6. And he's a fantastic player in space. But you bring back Keenan Allen, who's seemingly fitting right back in. Quentin Johnston's taken a Troy Franklin-like leap this year for them specifically. You have Tyler Conklin at tight end. You have a rookie in Trey Harris, who is very talented. And the biggest surprise here with the Chargers, Rachel, is that they're not having a lot of success running the ball with Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, who a lot of people in Broncos country wanted in the NFL draft. So this Chargers team is very weird, but it is the toughest team that they're going to face yet.
Yeah, and so the Chargers ranked 25th in running game, which obviously not ideal. I'm curious where you sit on the Omarion Hampton. Did you want the Broncos to draft him, or were you okay when they skipped over him? I had my tweet ready. I thought that's exactly who they were going to go with.
I kind of shifted. Like at my first mock draft, I think I did last year was Omarion Hampton, but then I started, going a little bit deeper and looking at this team, thinking, you know what? Okay, is Sean really going to take a running back in the first round? I was like, no, I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, it's not like Hampton was Ashton Genty. If it was Ashton Genty, yes, the Broncos would have definitely taken him. But I think that the needs kind of changed as we were getting a little bit closer to the draft. There was a lot of buzz around tight end, like Colston Loveland and maybe even Tyler Warren at one point. But we were like, Tyler Warren's never going to be available. Colston Loveland could be available. But ultimately, I think we're all kind of shocked now. And Rachel, I want to throw this back to you here. In hindsight, knowing what we know now, seeing where this Broncos team is at right now with the injuries at linebacker, part of me wishes that they would have drafted maybe a linebacker like Jahad Campbell, who's now at the Philadelphia Eagles here. How do you feel kind of post-draft now? I like Jahdae Barron, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But is that what the Broncos needed right now as we look at them struggling with linebacker depth?
No, and I still scratch my head where I'm like, you guys really just took probably one of the best available players instead of going for a need for this team. But you don't bring in Dre Greenlaw expecting him to be injured for the first 2 weeks, possibly 3, which I'm still confused. Again, scratching my head saying, why didn't you guys put him on short-term IR, which I don't know if we'll ever get an answer to that. When Sean Payton was asked yesterday about it, it was very much a things are kind of going in the direction we thought they were. Like, that was the vibe I got from Sean. Not, it was like, okay, this is kind of what we were expecting. I think that there's been some, not that I want to speculate too much because I know we get in trouble for speculating, but I just feel like there was a bit of a fallback, I guess. That's not the exact word I'm looking for, but
a setback?
Thank you. I'm like,
It
what's the word? There was
you're
something clearly
100%
that
fair
happened.
with that. I mean, Rachel, remember the week of the first game, right?
Yes.
Remember they had that bonus practice on that Monday, so it didn't really fall into the regular season reporting guidelines in terms of we don't have to give out an injury report today. We saw Dre Greenlaw practicing, and then we go to practice Wednesday, and he's on the side field. So the only
Make it
thing
make
that makes sense to me is that there was one.
Yes. No, there had to have been something. And unfortunately, who knows if he will. I think today at practice, we're going to be really paying attention. Is he finally back with the team or is he on the side field again? Same with Evan Ingram, though, right? We're like, oh, dealing with that calf injury. And then he's on the injury report yesterday for a back injury. Evan Ingram's
Well,
an older player in this league, 9 years. It's like a back injury can definitely sideline you too. So hopefully he's back out there at practice. A couple other guys, obviously, on the injury report. But I do scratch my head. Going back to the original question, I do scratch my head at why they went with the best available player instead of in positions where they thought. But again, it's like so easy to sit here and say that now with Dre Greenlaw. If he would be healthy, none of us would be talking about it.
yeah, 100%. Look, hindsight is the game. We unfortunately can play the hindsight battle all the time. I know coaches do. I know Sean does at times.
Yeah.
I love their process. I love the additions. Like if you're getting a healthy Dre and you're getting a healthy Evan,
Yep.
those can be game-changing additions to your team. You know, certainly Talanoa Hufanga has been every bit as advertised
Yeah.
when he's been added to the mix as well. So, I mean, that's obviously great. He was on the injury report, limited with a chest injury, but I mean, he looked fine yesterday. He should be good to go this week. There's nothing I'm concerned about, but what I am concerned about here, Justin Sternad also popped up on the injury report, was a DMP yesterday.
Yeah.
We all know he's the starter next to Alex Singleton. And if he misses time, the Broncos, the only guy that they have on their 53-man roster right now at linebacker that is healthy is Karene Reed and Alex Singleton. And so more than likely we're looking at practice squad call-ups for Lavelle Bailey and also maybe Garrett Wallow here again. But you're asking those guys potentially if Sternad misses and if Greenlaw's not ready, you're asking one of those guys to have to play against Justin Herbert and the Chargers right now, who would love to attack the middle of the field the way that they did last year on Thursday Night Football. Kind of concerns me.
Listen, I am a big Lavelle Bailey fan. I was actually shocked. I think all of Broncos country was shocked after what we saw in the preseason and the fact that he didn't make the 53-man roster.
Yeah.
So I feel confident enough that if he has to go up there, that's good. But to beat this Chargers team, you're going to have to get after Justin Herbert. You're going to have to make him think extra fast. So it's going to be super important for these linebackers. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me when it comes to Justin Herbert is the fact that he can throw the long ball, right? He can throw some bombs downfield. So you really have to get after him this week. And, a bunch of guys, I mean, hopefully Jonathan Cooper and Nick Benito can get a couple sacks in on him. That would be beneficial and help out a guy like Lavelle Bailey if he does get called up. But I kind of would be shocked if we don't see Sternad out there today. I feel like maybe it was like, okay, take a rest day. Like we all need those every once in a while, but I am very, very hopeful that we do see him. And I would love to see Dre Greenlaw. Like that would be huge, but I just don't feel confident in that after hearing from Sean Payton yesterday.
Yeah, I know he said it was a little nebulous, the injury. I'm like, all right, Sean, why would you say that? His schedule is where we have it as a team, but it's a little nebulous. Like, come on, that's like a double negative there in terms of cancels out exactly like the first thing that he said there. I would say that wouldn't be shocked if we see some of those guys that were DNP back, because remember last week John Franklin Myers on Wednesday was a DNP with a knee, then the next day he was back full. So hopefully, knock on wood, that's the case with Evan Ingram and hopefully Justin Sternad. And, we'll put it out there hopefully for not Lavelle Bailey, but for Dre Greenlaw as well. We'll see if that is the case here. Rachel, I think one of the things that watching this Chargers team on Monday night, the thing that stands out to me through 2 weeks of play is that their defense, even without Khalil Mack, he suffered a dislocated elbow. He will not play in this game. They have really good depth at pass rusher. They got veteran Bud Dupree. They've got Tuli Tuipulotu, who is obviously a talented player. And they also have really good safety and corner play right now. They play a lot of zone coverage. And so Denver's going to get those looks. Got to be careful because they got athletic safeties, athletic linebackers. So for Bo Nix in this offense, it's going to be a challenge. And I know we got some mailbag questions coming up from listeners in Broncos country. They asked some matchup-based questions. I know that we're excited to answer. But what is your biggest concern this week about facing this Chargers team, whether it be offense or defense?
Honestly, I'd said they're going to replicate what the Colts did. Right. And I know one of the questions is about getting Cortland and Sutton involved. So I don't want to steal that spotlight too much from our mailbag. But I'm more concerned just with that front. I mean, Derwin James is really solid, too. You're facing a guy that's been in the league for quite some time now. You got to go up against him. I think they're going to apply the pressure to Bo Nix. Like, I just think that this Chargers defense And I'm going to be the one to say it. Earlier in the offseason, I was like, I think the Broncos go 1-1 against them. I do not feel that way at all after what we've seen. Or Harbaugh is a very tough-nosed defense type guy. Like, he is going to have a very tough defense. They are going to hit you hard. I think this is going to be a real big challenge. And again, I think if you're bringing down Courtland Sutton, okay, now you really have to rely on Marvin Mims, which I feel like he's been involved, but not really involved, which is kind of frustrating. Pat Bryant, you're revolving on a rookie, and then Troy Franklin. So those are your three guys that you really have to get involved. And I just don't know if I trust Sean's play calling to involve those guys a ton. And then the run game, you have J.K. Dobbins, who, of course, is going against his former team. I'm like, okay, well, I hope there's a little chip on your shoulder that, hey, they didn't necessarily want me back. Let me run all over them. And I hope Sean gives him the opportunity to do that. So there's a lot about this Chargers defense that worries me. But to be honest, sometimes I worry more about what Sean's going to call and less about what the defense is going to hand him.
I think a lot of Broncos fans will agree with your sentiment there. And can Sean and the Broncos get out of their own way this week against the Chargers? We're going to answer some of your mailbag questions, though, coming up here on today's Orange Crush podcast here on Mile High Sports.
Yo, I can guard pro in these.
I can guard you and route you up.
You sure about that?
Fellas looking for a quarterback?
Let's go!
You're right, Billy. These do bring out my eyes.
Every shoe for every athlete.
Dix is the go.
Oh, man, it's my favorite time. I love mailbag questions so much. I love getting to connect. That's what my job, right, is I'm like, I get to bring the fans closer to this Denver Broncos team, and I love it so much. So first mailbag question we got is from Hetty Hats. Why was Sutton not in the game plan this past Sunday, Cody?
Well, I mean, I think he was. It's just that here's the challenge that, Cortland is facing right now. And this has to do with the Broncos having young wide receivers and kind of daring them to say, hey, like, get your other playmakers involved here. Yep. Cortland is seeing a lot of bracket coverage. If the Broncos, they face some zone defense. They face some man looks last week against the Colts. But really what they're doing is they're playing essentially cover 2 in certain instances, cover 3 and other ones. They're spying wherever Cortland is, right? So if you look to wherever Cortland is lined up, you'll have a corner. And obviously we've seen the Broncos run some in-breaking routes there to try to free up Cortland underneath. You have some clear-out routes, trying to pull the corners and the other safety away. But they're really spying where number 14 is. I mean, Cortland had 4 targets, only 1 catch, 6 yards last week against the Indianapolis Colts there. And that was by the Colts just trying to take him away, take him out of the game plan here, and essentially saying, hey, beat us with someone else. I mean, the Broncos, Troy Franklin had 9 targets. He had 8 catches. The Broncos scored 28 points on the road. They should have won that game. So it was almost kind of like it was almost working out that Denver could have beaten the Colts there, especially with the 28 points scored. But you and I talked about it, I think, in our podcast earlier in the week, just saying, hey, like, why can't you get more guys involved? Like, Bo distributed the ball to a handful of guys, but it was like 6 or 7 different players that had like at least 2 targets versus like, all right, Troy has a lot. Cortland has the next amount, but why can't we see Marvin Mims get more than 2 targets in a game? I mean, I think you have to have more distribution and more volume for 3 or 4 different guys versus it being spread out so much.
I'm totally with you. They moved the high safety over on Cortland too. They had that additional guy following him a ton. But you have to give it to Cortland too, where he got 2 of the flags on that 4 flag penalty drive that they had that ultimately allowed them to move down the field a ton. So that was helpful. But yeah, I think Cortland's always a part of the game plan, but unfortunately, wide receiver number 1, everyone's going to look to take him out of the game. All right. Yes. Contrarian Rocks, who is the backup for Singleton and any chance they play? People are not high on Alex Singleton so far this year.
It's tough. Look, and you know this as well. Like, we're around Alex. Alex is a great guy. Dude is ultra competitive, tough as nails. Yeah. And look, I think it's also safe to say that, he struggled and the Broncos defense struggled in a whole, but yes, certainly he has struggled in terms of being able to cover the running backs out of the backfield. I mean, the wheel route has been a problem for the Broncos linebackers for 2 straight years now. Yep. Cody Barton struggled with it. Alex struggled with it. Everybody else has struggled with it. And also on top of that too, is Colts definitely tried to pick on him. They tried to get him, Tyler Warren against him in certain situations. They knew that they would get a specific coverage look, and they attacked it perfectly, and Singleton missed that tackle on Jonathan Taylor, ended up going for 60-something yards down the field there. Just he's working his way back from the ACL, but the Broncos are in a position right now where this can't continue to happen. So that's kind of the draw. But to answer the question, Rene Reed right now is the only guy on the active roster at linebacker that can fill in. You'd have to elevate someone from the practice squad if, Singleton were to get hurt or if he were struggling a little bit. I imagine this is going to be the week we probably see 2 linebackers called up, elevated on Saturday for the game day roster. But right now, the linebacker position is not looking great in terms of depth. They're very thin right now.
Alex, too, told the media yesterday he's cracking everybody up because, like you said, he's such a good dude, and he's always great to the media. He was like, yeah, it's funny. I've been telling people to forget about a major knee injury. You have to go and break your thumb twice. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I bet you're not thinking about your knee when you're up there because you have your thumb that you're worrying about, too. So he just made the entire media laugh. And, yeah, it's something. He also is coming up. I believe this is like the 1-year mark here in just a few days of when he had his major knee injury. So
yeah, he's under it. That's tough for guys. Like most of the time, ACL is like a 12 to 15 month, depending on the severity, depending on the type of graft that you get. It's a tough position for him to be in, but I applaud him. He's tough as nails, and hopefully he can just continue to get better every week.
I'm totally with you. Okay, Ed Holinsky, at this point of the season, whose stock is up and whose stock is down, Cody?
It's a great question from Ed. I think the easy button here would be Troy Franklin's stock is massively up after what we've seen from him in the first 2 weeks of the regular season. And the thing I love about Troy, Rachel, he's demonstrated in the regular season and on the field what we saw in training camp, right? Sometimes that's what you're always hoping for with players. Troy's done that. Stock up for him. Stock down. Ooh, this is tough. Could we say Sean Payton's play calling? Could that stock down a little bit? Just because it just seems like it ebbs and flows. And I'm not going to ever sit here and question Sean, but I know as the game is happening, I've been a coach. You get tunnel vision sometimes, and sometimes you get a little too far ahead of yourself, and it's like, all right, like the Broncos, they're going to throw a screen to Troy Franklin on 3rd and 24. He's going to get 15 yards on that. Okay, great. But 3rd and 3, we're going to throw the ball downfield. Like, to me, it's just the highs and lows. But that's where I'm at. Who are your stock up and stock down?
So my stock down right now is Evan Ingram. Well, 1, he's dealing with injury, but 2, just the way the play calls have been, it's been interesting considering he's the joker. He's the guy that's supposed to come in and save this offense, save the day. So that was interesting to me, but because of the injury, I'll give him a little bit of a pass. But my question actually is, and I don't know how to answer this. Like, thinking about it right now, the biggest stock up or stock down is Bo Nix. And yes, he had a decent day on Sunday, but he still threw an interception. So now totaling 4 interceptions, right? 4? Yeah.
I think 3, actually.
3? Okay.
2 against Tennessee.
1
last week.
Yep.
Even last week's was tough, too. It's tough, but yeah, it still counts as interception regardless.
It does. And so I sit here and I'm like, okay, well, 2nd-year QB, 3 interceptions already on the season. First game looked really bad, but improved last week a little bit. I don't know how to feel about Bo Nix because we all had such high regards for him coming into the season. So technically, has his stock gone down a little?
I'm not honestly worried about Bo because remember, he was 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last year through 2 weeks.
Yeah, totally.
And then he went on a run. So I just think it's about just getting in rhythm and getting some of these pieces to click there. They're trying some new things out that hopefully, they can find common ground on. You want some tea on the Evan Ingram situation that I found to be interesting? Obviously, I do Locked On Broncos, and my co-host and I, we did a segment on how come Sean Payton is not using his joker, Evan Ingram. How come he's not using him in the way that he said he was initially? Evan's wife commented with the eye emojis on my TikTok on that. So I was like, interesting. But, social media.
I love the tea, first of all. I love when the wives get involved. They'll tell you. Interesting though. That is some tea.
So I'm sure Evan's frustrated. Evan's also frustrated that obviously his back is banged up. His calf injury that popped up certainly was a little problematic for him. But I think we've all been kind of waiting. Like, Sean, you brought in Evan to do all these things. How come you're not using him in that way there?
I'm sure.
And I don't think And I don't think it has anything to do with the injury, like why we didn't see him used, because, I mean, Rachel, we saw him. He was a full participant Thursday, Friday last week, off the injury report, ready to go for the Colts game.
Yep.
There's no – if he's off the injury report, then that means that he should be fine, no limitations. So I don't think it was the injury. So it's just – is Sean waiting for the right time to unleash him? I don't know. If that's the case, I think it's silly. Bring him – like, you only have a certain amount of room to improve here early on in the season. What you do now is going to define the rest of your season. So why wait to unleash the Joker in the deck? That's my question.
Listen, if he is waiting for the perfect moment, I can tell you right now, the perfect moment is going to be this upcoming week against this Chargers defense. Yeah, I mean, look at what they did to Geno Smith and picked him off 3 times. Like, you have to be able to get Bo Nix, his guys that hopefully he's got some chemistry with, and we saw that all training camp. So I don't know. That's interesting. I love the tea. Keep me updated on all the tea with the wives over there. I'm very, very.
Which is crazy. It's like, I didn't, usually like sometimes fans will go through and they'll like go to the wives' pages and comment to try to get dirt. I'll never do that. But yeah, I found it interesting that she commented on my TikTok and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. We'll just keep an eye on that.
We like Emily a lot. So I'm very, very curious. It was funny. Yesterday we're in the locker room and guys who are dealing with injuries, they don't talk to the media, right? If they're at their locker, they'll have usually a PR person who's standing there. Evan was in like their little side room where I guess they get like massage therapy or get on the bike or whatever. And he walked out, saw all the media, and immediately just turned right back in. And we were like, "Oh, hi, Evan! Like, how you doing, my friend?" It was so funny. He's such a good dude, but yeah, just the look of like, "Nope, gotta go, everybody." Made me laugh.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and I get it from the PR standpoint too. You don't want to talk to injured players, because that's one thing for Sean. Like, and we've seen it. Like Sean in training camp, he'll tell us all about injuries.
Yep.
Regular season, he thinks it's a competitive disadvantage to give opponents maybe some information. Okay, hey, maybe this guy will not play this week. Now, granted, they could just look at the injury report and make assumptions, but he doesn't want there to be any kind of competitive disadvantage with that. I understand it. I get it. It just makes our jobs a little more difficult. But
Totally. No, trust me, I get it too. It's a game of secrets. This game, the NFL, is a game of secrets, that's for sure. Okay, next question. Something in the orange. Should we expect to see adjustments on defense to counter the quick passing game? And then there's another question, but let's answer this one first.
I'd hope so.
Oh, gosh.
9.8 yards per play on first down to the Colts in the quick passing game last week. You can't like Justin Herbert. The thing with Justin, he's a total player. He not only can he carve you up with his arm, but he can use his legs too. He's very athletic, very mobile, can get outside the pocket. This is a dangerous game here that Denver is playing. Yeah, I think you have to find some sort of adjustment here. And if Vance can't do it, then it's going to create some questions down, as the season goes about.
Yep. Okay, so there was a player yesterday, and I'm trying to remember. I wish I would have gone back, but it just popped up in my mind. I took one of their comments as if not that they overlooked the Colts, but that they didn't take them extremely seriously. And just in the way they said their statement, and again, I wish I had like the actual quote, I was like, interesting. So did you just kind of pass along the Colts as like, oh, it's Daniel Jones, like we don't have to be worried about it too much? That happens in life all the time, right? For players, for coaches, for us too. Like we all look different things. So I'm not going to sit here and fault any of them. But we know they're taking this Chargers team very, very seriously. So just something to pay attention to. Hopefully they get back in shape and look like the elite defense we were hoping that they would be.
That's the hope.
Also, does Deuce Vaughn factor into the game day roster at some point? Everyone is a big Deuce Vaughn fan. I actually watched him a lot in college. My husband is a big K-State fan, so that's where he went to school. So I've seen a lot of Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen. I mean, you'd have to have like the worst luck right now with injuries at the running back position, I think, in order for that to happen. And the idea here is, if he's on the practice squad, maybe Sean sees something that's a developmental trait in him. Look, everyone's already making the comparison to Darren Sproles, though I'd say Deuce Vaughn is a little bit shorter than Darren Sproles, but very explosive, very, very explosive. We've seen him have success in the NFL preseason, but maybe there's, if you're on the practice squad right now, they very much, George Payton and Sean Payton have said this, they view that really as an extension of their 53, where they can continue to develop players. So they see something here. And they didn't have a running back initially on the practice squad after they made roster cuts. So, we'll see, but I think it'll be highly unlikely we ever see Deuce Vaughn suit up on game day.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this right now, and we can mark my words on this. If Sean Payton rotates with this running back room anymore, I'm going to pull my hair out. because I'm like, you have to give these guys an opportunity to actually build on something, Sean.
Yes.
If all of a sudden there is just we're going to throw in this guy, I'm pulling my hair out live right here on the Orange Crush podcast, because I would be like, Sean, what are we doing here? All right, last question we got. It's from Taylor. How confident are we that they can turn this offense around and quick?
I'm not as worried about the offense. I was very pleased with the turnaround we saw last week. The run game got going. I thought the offensive line had a very, very good performance for the most part, and setting things up in the run blocking department. Pass protection, I thought Bo had a lot of time to be able to make some plays, set his feet, fire, and throw, and they did a really good job of staying on blocks and sustaining on scramble drill. I mean, it's a better performance. The offense, I felt like they turned it around last week, but you don't want to see that, okay, you look good one week, now you look bad the next week. You want to find consistency, right? So I'd say maybe that's probably where we're aiming is, can they be consistent this week on the road against the Chargers? That, to me, is the biggest question.
Yeah, they've improved the wide zone slightly. Still definitely not there, but we are enjoying that a little bit. Bo did have a good game last time. I know I give him a little bit of heart for his interception. That's going to happen. It's just he's got to be smart. And I know he was trying to avoid the ball getting, swatted down and all that kind of jazz, but we got to be smart, especially in the fourth quarter. And again, I think a lot of it's going to come down to Sean Payton's play calling and the RPOs too, right? Like some of those things where it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a run and unfortunately ends up having to be a pass. I think we just all have to be kind of flexible on how we view this offense, especially going into this game. But I expect this to be a back and forth battle between the offense. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of balls swinging downfield, and I'm excited for it, Cody.
Yeah, me too. This is the biggest game of the year so far, right? And there's going to be a few of those games coming up here on the schedule. And you want to find yourself 2-1, not 1-2, especially with a tougher slate, because after the Chargers, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, no Joe Burrow. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week. Yeah. No Joe Burrow, but Jake Browning has been in that system and can operate that offense how they want to over there, how Zach Taylor wants in Cincy. Then you got the Philadelphia Eagles, and you got to go to London. Then you got to come home and play the ghost of Russell Wilson, who threw for over 450 yards this past week. And I think we're all rooting for Russell Wilson this weekend as the Giants take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Maybe you can send them to 0-3. If that happens, my goodness, could you imagine the craziness?
I could not. So, fun fact, my husband is from Kansas. So his entire family is Chiefs fans.
Oh,
and
no.
For the past couple of years, I have gotten so much crap for what I do in my career and who I cover. So if they start 0-3, let's just say my group chats would be a little more fun this coming season. So I would be looking forward to it for sure.
We've got to turn it around.
Oh, I know. Fingers crossed.
I'm with you. Well,
we're going to talk about it more on Saturday, though. Cody and I all actually be here this week. So, whoop, whoop.
Yep, final game preview. We'll give you the final injury report, who's in, who's out, and we'll share our keys to victory, our players that we have our eyes on the next installment of the Orange Crush podcast here on Mile High Sports. We'll see you then.